Hello everyone, welcome to Programming with C++ for week 7 section. In this section, we'll be learning about functions. So this section we'll be learning about functions, function declarations, and definitions. Also, we'll be learning about argument passing, default argument, value return, and function names. Understanding function overload and pointer functions. Also learning user-defined functions. So let's proceed to functions. What functions are. So when we talk about function, it's like thinking of a recipe in a cookbook. Just like a recipe has a name, ingredients, and step-by-step instructions to make dish. A function has a name, parameters, and code that performs a specific task. So in C++, functions are blocks of code designed to perform specific tasks. They are fundamental building blocks that help you organize our code, make it reusable, and keep our program manageable. Imagine you are building a house. Instead of mixing cement, laying bricks, and sealing windows all in one huge process, break it down into smaller tasks. Functions work the same way. They break down complex programs into smaller, manageable pieces. So that's function. That's what we meant by function. They break down complex program into simpler tasks for easy understanding. So now let's proceed to types of functions. So we have user-defined functions. We have standard library functions. We have virtual functions, inline functions. So now let's talk about the user-defined functions. So these are functions that you, the programmer, create to solve specific problems. Think of them as your customer tools. For example, if you need to calculate the average three numbers repeatedly in your program, you would create a user-defined function to do this. That's the user-defined function. It helps to solve specific problems. We talk about the standard library functions. We also say they are pre-built functions that come with C++. It's like having a toolbox that's already filled with useful tools. Examples include the std_cout for output, the std_split for square root calculations, and the std_max for finding the minimum or maximum values. So let's talk about the virtual functions. So virtual functions, they are functions in base of classes that can be overridden in derived classes, enabling polymorphism. That's for the virtual functions. They are used in object-oriented programming for something called polymorphism, as I said earlier on. So let's talk about the inline function. The inline function deals with a function where the compiler tries to replace the function call with the actual function code to make your program run faster. Think of it like copy-pasting the function code whenever it's called. That's the inline function. So let's move on to some benefits of using functions. So why we should use functions? Let me give you 4 compiling reasons. Only 4 compiling reasons. It said modularity. Break down complex program into similar, manageable units. Reusability. It helps you to write code once and use it multiple. And we have as abstractions, hide implementation details, focusing on what the function does rather than how it. We have improved readability, makes code easier to understand and maintain. Now let's move on to function declaration. A function declaration is like announcing to your program, hey, I'm going to create a function with this name. Take this input and return this of output. It's also called a function prototype. Think of it as review or a promise. You are telling the compiler what to expect before you actually write the function. That's the function declaration. As you all can see, we have a syntax for that. We have the return type function name, the first parameter, the second parameter, and so on. So with the function declaration, these are the inbuilt code I just programmed. And if you run this code, you're gonna get an output. So this is it. I created a function declaration. So I see out there as 1 and 2 for the function declaration. So let's move on to function definition. When we talk about function definition, it said a function definition is where you actually write what the function does. It's like going from a recipe title to writing out all the ingredients and steps. That's for the function definition. It said the structure includes return type, function name, parameter, and function body. So let's move on to the structure. Yes. So the function definition includes return type, as I said, a name, a parameter, list, and a body enclosed in curly braces. So as you all can see, function definition structure, as you can see on the screen, the return type, function name, the parameter 1, parameter 2, and your curly braces. Don't forget about your curly braces. It's very necessary and important. Without it, I'm not sure your code will run. Let's move to some key definition keywords here that you have to note or rectify. Return type. This tells us what kind of data the function will give back. Like using the void if the function doesn't return anything. Like a function that jumps print something to the screen. That's the return type. Let's move on to the function name. It said this is how you call the function. Choose meaningful names like calculate average instead of the function itself. Then let's move on to the parameters. So the parameters, that's the parameters of the argument. So the parameters are variables in the function definition. They are like empty boxes waiting to be filled in our function definition. That's the parameters, the function body too. Let's talk about the function body. So the function body, this is where the actual work happens, sorry, and the step-by-step instructions. So then we talk about the return statement. They said it's used to send a value back to the caller. That's the return statement. So there is a well-defined code inbuilt that if you pause your video and run, you're gonna get an answer or an output. So as you all can see on your screen, this is function definition code. I'm defining a function, and as you all can see, int add, that's my int first name and second name, that's the function body. Int result, that means the int result is first name plus the second name I terminate. I'm gonna get an output. So this is the function definition code. And now let's move on to parameters. So we talk about parameters. We see they are variables in the function definition that receive the argument. So here are some syntax, syntax that you have to know. And these are what you have to follow when writing a parameter. So that's the return type name, the first type name. We have the type 1 name 1, type 2 name 2, the function body, your curly braces. Don't forget to always bring your curly braces. So let's move on to arguments. And arguments they are simple. So arguments are the actual values you pass when calling the function. They are what fills those empty boxes. So as you all can see, these are the syntax. That's the function name, argument 1 and argument 2. And that's an example I have here that add num 1, 2, 3. I terminate. So other arguments are like the references as an argument, pointers as argument, arrays as argument. So now let's move on to the default argument. The default argument. Sometimes you want to make a function flexible. Default arguments let you provide default values for parameters. So users don't always have to provide every argument. It's like ordering a restaurant where the chef has a default seasoning, but you can specify something different if you want to. That's the default argument. And these are all the syntax for writing a default argument. Your return type, your function name, your type 1, your name 1, your type 2, your name 2, and your value, your equal value. So now these are the inbuilt codes written here. As you all can see, these are my function with default argument. They said int get sum, int x, int y equals 20. I open my curly braces, return x plus y, and this is gonna give you an answer or an output. That's the default argument. So as you all can see, the default argument, cout get sum lies 5, you end line, cout get sum lies 5, 15, you return 0. If you pause the video and you try this on your code blocks, it will work. Because of time, so we have to proceed. So we have function calling. As you all know, calling something to use as a function, you call it by its name, followed by the parentheses and required argument. It's like calling someone's name to get their attention. So take note, the parenthesis is very important. The parenthesis is very important. It's very important when calling a function. They said it's like it's always followed by parentheses. That's function calling. And these are the syntax in which we follow in writing function calling. So we have the function name, the argument 1, the argument 2. Now let's move on to function overloading. To talk about function overloading is a powerful feature that lets you create multiple functions with the same name but different parameters. It's like having multiple tools with the same name but different purposes. Yes, that's the function overload. It helps you to create multiple functions with the same name but different parameters. That's the work of the function overload. Code inbuilt, I just for the function overload. So that's, as you can all see, int add, you add int a, comma int b. I open, don't forget to curly braces. It's very necessary. So I return my a plus b. And these are the codes. I think if you sit down and you practice, you gonna be cool. Yeah. You can look on my codes I just wrote to practice whatever you've learned. And so these are all codes, the function overloading case 2 codes. These are all codes I just wrote. So I explained this in our the beginning of our lesson. So these are all case 3 function overloading. You said declaring multiple functions. So this is the end of our lesson for week 7. For week 7, these are some assignments I have for you. We write a given assignment on a GPA calculator to use functions. So these are all assignments you can try your hands on. Thank you one more again, and I'm Professor Eric for the programming with C++ lecture. And I hope people will try and practice more on whatever you've learned today to get a clear understanding. And hope to see you next time. And hope to see you or join my section for the week 8. Goodbye.